The dinner rush was in full swing. Friday night, July 14, 2017. 7:43 p.m. Casa Torres was packed. Every table full, a waitlist of 20 people in the lobby. The smell of garlic, cilantro and sizzling carne asada filled the air. Mariachi music played softly in the background. This was my father's pride and joy, the restaurant he'd built from nothing 30 years ago. And I was about to ruin his perfect night. I'd been working the line for 6 hours straight. My station was pasta and seafood. I was responsible for the camarones alla gillo, the pescado alla veracruzana, the fettuccine poblano. We were slammed. Tickets were printing faster than we could plate. That's when I made the mistake. Table 14 had ordered the pescado, our signature whole red snapper in a tomato-based sauce. I'd made it 1,000 times. But tonight, exhausted and rushing, I plated it with cilantro lime rice instead of the traditional white rice. Small mistake. Easily fixable. Except the customer at table 14 was Rodrigo Mendoza, a food critic for the Los Angeles Times. And my father saw it before it left the kitchen. Vaya. His voice cut through the kitchen noise like a knife. What is this? I looked up from the shrimp I was sautéing. My father was holding the plate I just finished, his face dark with fury. The pescado for table 14, I said. With cilantro lime rice? My stomach dropped. I made a mistake. I'll fix it. You'll fix it. He slammed the plate down on the counter. The fish slid sideways, sauce splattering. Do you know who that table is? Do you? Dad, I'm sorry. I'll remake it right now. Rodrigo Mendoza is sitting at that table. The Rodrigo Mendoza. And you were going to send him the wrong dish. The kitchen had gone quiet. Luis, our sous chef, was frozen mid-chop. The other line cooks had stopped working. Everyone was staring. It was an accident, I said quietly. Let me fix it. An accident? Maya, you've been working here for 3 years. 3 years. And you still make mistakes like this. Everyone makes mistakes. Not everyone. Carlos doesn't make mistakes. He gestured at Carlos, our headline cook. Luis doesn't make mistakes. Your brother doesn't make mistakes. There was my brother Javier. Javier had worked at Casa Torres for 5 years before opening his own place in Santa Monica. My father talked about him constantly. Javier runs a tight kitchen. Javier knows how to handle pressure. Javier made me proud. I was the daughter who couldn't measure up. I'll remake the dish, I said, reaching for the plate. My father pulled it away. No. You're done for tonight. Dad, we're in the middle of service. I said you're done. His voice was loud enough that I heard the dining room conversations pause. My face burned. I made one mistake, but I can fix it in 3 minutes. It's not just this mistake, Maya. It's every mistake. You're slow. You're sloppy. You can't handle pressure. Do you know how many times I've had to step in and fix your screw-ups? That's not fair. You want to talk about fair? He stepped closer, his voice rising. I gave you a job here when no one else would hire you. I trained you myself. I let you work the line when you barely knew how to dice an onion. And this is how you repay me? By embarrassing me in front of the most important critic in Los Angeles. Tears stung my eyes. I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of everyone. I'm sorry, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Sorry doesn't cut it. You know what your problem is, Maya? You don't have what it takes. You're not cut out for this business. I don't know why I thought you could be. The kitchen was dead silent. 40 customers in the dining room could probably hear every word. Get out, my father said. What? Get out. You're fired. Take off your apron and leave. I stared at him. Dad, you can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking? You're useless in this kitchen. You're a liability. I can't afford to have you screwing up my reputation. Something inside me cracked. Fine. I untied my apron, balled it up and threw it on the counter. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I hope it was worth it, I said. What? This. Humiliating me in front of everyone. I hope it was worth it. I walked past the line cooks, past Luis who wouldn't meet my eyes, past Carlos who looked uncomfortable. I walked through the dining room where 40 customers pretended not to stare. I walked past my mother at the host stand, her face stricken. Maya, she started. I kept walking. I got in my beat-up 2008 Toyota Corolla and drove to my apartment in Echo Park. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, too numb to move. Then I went inside, lay on my bed and finally let myself cry. My phone rang at 11:30 p.m. My mother. Mija, are you okay? Did he send you to call me? No. He's still angry. But Maya, you know how he gets during service. The pressure. Don't defend him, Mama. I'm not defending him. What he did was wrong. But he's your father. He loves you. He has a funny way of showing it. She sighed. Come by tomorrow. Talk to him. He'll have calmed down by then. No. Maya. I'm not coming back, Mama. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Don't be dramatic. Where else are you going to work? That question stung because it was valid. I dropped out of college to work at Casa Torres. I had no degree, no other experience. Restaurant work was all I knew. I'll figure something out, I said. Mija, be reasonable. Good night, Mama. I hung up. For the next 3 days I sat in my apartment applying to every restaurant job I could find. Line cook, prep cook, dishwasher, I didn't care. I just needed work. On day 4 I got a call from a small Italian restaurant in Silver Lake called Lucia's. The owner, an older woman named Lucia Rossi, needed a line cook. You have experience? She asked during my phone interview. 3 years at Casa Torres. Torres? The Mexican place in East LA? Good food. Why did you leave? Creative differences with the owner. She laughed. In this business that usually means family drama. Let me guess, your father. I hesitated. Yes. My son worked for me for 2 years before I fired him. Couldn't take criticism. Thought he knew better than me. She paused. You still talk to your father? No. Good. Family and business don't mix. When can you start? I started at Lucia's the next Monday. The pay was terrible, $14 an hour, barely enough to cover rent. The kitchen was tiny, the equipment ancient. We did maybe 50 covers on a good night. But Lucia was a brilliant chef. She trained in Italy, worked in Michelin-starred restaurants in Rome and Florence. She taught me things my father never had. Proper technique, flavor balance, how to build a dish from the ground up. Your knife skills are sloppy, she told me on day 2. Who taught you to chop like that? My father. Well, he taught you wrong. Watch. She showed me the proper way to hold a knife, how to use the knuckles as a guide, how to develop rhythm and speed without sacrificing precision. Within 2 months, my knife work was twice as fast and infinitely cleaner. He taught me about pasta, real pasta made from scratch. How to feel the dough, how to know when it's ready, how to cut it, dry it, cook it perfectly. She taught me about sauces, about building layers of flavor, about patience. Cooking is not about speed, she said. It's about understanding. Anyone can throw food on a plate quickly. An artist knows when to wait, when to taste, when to adjust. I soaked up everything like a sponge. At night I went home and practiced. I made pasta dough 50 times until I could do it blindfolded. I made sauces, adjusting and tasting until I understood how each ingredient affected the whole. I watched cooking videos, read cookbooks, studied. My father called twice in those first 3 months. I didn't answer. My mother called weekly. Your father wants you to come back. He's willing to give you another chance. I don't want another chance. Maya, pride won't pay your bills. I'm doing fine. You're making $14 an hour. You could be making twice that at Casa Torres. At what cost, Mama? She had no answer to that. After 6 months at Lucia's, I was running the line most nights. Lucia trusted me with her recipes, her techniques, her vision. You're good, she told me one night after service. Really good. You have instincts. Natural talent. Thank you. But you're wasting it here. She gestured around the tiny kitchen. You should be working somewhere bigger. Better. I like it here. I like you here too. But I'm not going to hold you back. When you're ready to move on, you move on. No hard feelings. 3 months later, I got a job at Osteria Mozza in Hollywood. One of Nancy Silverton's restaurants. A real name, a real opportunity. I worked there for a year learning from some of the best chefs in Los Angeles. The pace was brutal, the standards impossibly high. I worked 16-hour days, came home with burns on my arms and cuts on my fingers. I loved every second. But I was learning something else too. I was learning about the business side. How restaurants made money, how they managed inventory, how they priced menus. I paid attention to the managers, asked questions, studied their systems. Because an idea was forming in my head. A dangerous, ambitious, probably stupid idea. I wanted to open my own restaurant. I started saving every penny. I lived on rice and beans, worked double shifts, picked up extra hours wherever I could. In 18 months, I'd saved $23,000. Not nearly enough to open a restaurant, but enough to start. I met Roberto Chin during a pop-up dinner event in downtown LA. He was a businessman and investor who specialized in restaurant ventures. We got talking after I'd cooked a 5-course tasting menu for his table. "This sea base," he said, pointing at his empty plate. "Where did you train?" "Osteria Mozza. Before that, Lucia's. Before that, my father's restaurant." "Your father's restaurant?" "Casa Torres in East LA. I know that place. Good food. Traditional. Very traditional. But you're doing something different. This sea base, it's Mexican ingredients with Italian technique. Fusion but thoughtful. Not gimmicky." "That's exactly what I'm trying to do." We talked for 2 hours. I told him about my idea. A restaurant that blended my Mexican heritage with the Italian techniques I'd learned. Elevated but accessible. High quality but not pretentious. "How much do you have saved?" he asked. $23,000. He laughed. "You'll need 10 times that. Maybe 20. My heart sank. "I know. I'm not ready yet. But someday." "What if I said I'd invest?" I stared at him. "Seriously. I like your food. I like your vision. More importantly, I like your humility. You know what you don't know. That's rare." He paused. "I'll put in $200,000 for a 40% stake. You put in your $23,000 and your expertise. We split the profit 60 to 40 in your favor." "Are you serious?" "I don't joke about money." 6 months later, we opened Marisol in Culver City. 28 seats. Tiny kitchen. A menu that featured things like chili braised short rib ravioli, mole negro risotto, carnitas arancini. Mexican-Italian fusion done right. We almost died in the first 3 months. The rent was too high, the labor costs were killing us, we couldn't get enough customers through the door. But then Jonathan Gold reviewed us. "Marisol is a revelation," he wrote. "Chef Maya Torres takes the best of her Mexican heritage and the Italian techniques she's mastered and creates something entirely new. This is not fusion for fusion's sake. This is thoughtful, delicious, important cooking." After that review, we had a 2-month waitlist. We started turning a profit in month 6. By the end of year 1, we'd done $890,000 in revenue. Roberto wanted to expand. "We should open a second location," he said. "Santa Monica. Bigger space, more covers." "I don't know if I'm ready." "You're ready. Maya, you're one of the most talented chefs I've worked with. And you're a better businessperson than you think. Let's do this." We opened Marisol Santa Monica 18 months after the first location. Then came Marisol Downtown. Then Marisol Pasadena. By year 4, I had 7 restaurants across Southern California. We were doing $8.3 million in annual revenue. By year 6, I had 12 restaurants. We'd expanded to San Diego and Orange County. Revenue hit $18 million. I was 29 years old. My father never called. Not once in those 6 years. My mother did occasionally. She told me about Casa Torres. How business was steady, how my father had hired a new line cook, how Javier was thinking about opening a second location in Westwood. She never asked about my restaurants. I think it was too painful for her to acknowledge that I'd succeeded without them. In year 7, I got a call from a commercial real estate broker named Susan Park. "Miss Torres, I have a property that might interest you. A restaurant space in East LA. The current owner is looking to sell." "I'm not looking to expand into East LA, I said. "It's Casa Torres." I froze. "What?" "Casa Torres. The Mexican restaurant on 4th Street. The owner is looking to retire. He's asking $2.1 million for the business, property, and all assets." My heart was pounding. Why is he selling? He's getting older. Business has been declining for the past few years. Competition in the area has increased. He wants to sell while he still can. "Who's the owner?" "Eduardo Torres. I believe he's my father." Silence on the other end. "I see," Susan finally said. "This might be complicated. Does he know you're calling me?" "No. I'm calling every restaurant operator in Southern California. Your company came up because of your expansion success. I had no idea about the family connection." I sat back in my chair. Casa Torres. The restaurant where I'd learned to cook, where I'd been humiliated, where I'd been fired. The restaurant my father loved more than he'd ever loved me. Send me the financials, I said. The numbers were worse than I'd expected. Revenue had dropped 35% over the past 3 years. The property needed significant repairs. Equipment was outdated. They were barely breaking even. But the location was prime. The building itself was worth at least $1.4 million. The business, even struggling, had name recognition and a loyal customer base. It was worth buying. But more than that, and I wasn't proud of this, I wanted it. I wanted to own the place that my father had chosen over me. I wanted him to know that the daughter he'd called useless had become successful enough to buy his entire legacy. It was petty. It was vindictive. I didn't care. Make an offer, I told my lawyer, Richard Chin, Roberto's cousin. $1.8 million. All cash. 30-day close. That's $300,000 under asking. Their financials are a mess. They'll take it. 3 days later, Susan called back. They accepted. But Eduardo wants to meet the buyer before he signs. No. Miss Torres, it's a reasonable request. Tell him the buyer wants to remain anonymous until closing. That's non-negotiable. She sighed. I'll try. My father pushed back. He wanted to know who was buying his restaurant, wanted to meet them, wanted assurances they'd maintain his legacy. I held firm. Anonymous buyer or no deal. Finally, his lawyer convinced him. Eduardo, you're in no position to be picky. You have one serious offer. Take it. The closing was scheduled for October 23, 2024. 2 p.m. at Richard's office in Century City. I dressed carefully that morning. Black Armani suit. Louboutin heels. My hair pulled back in a sleek bun. I looked like exactly what I was. A successful restaurateur worth $4.7 million on paper. I arrived at Richard's office at 1:45 p.m. He'd set up the conference room perfectly, me at the head of the table, my back to the door. You sure about this? Richard asked. Completely. It's going to be brutal. Good. My father arrived at 2:03 p.m. I heard his voice in the lobby talking to Richard's assistant. That familiar baritone, slightly rougher now with age. My mother was with him. I heard her too. Richard brought them into the conference room. I didn't turn around. Mr. and Mrs. Torres, please have a seat, Richard said. We're just waiting for. Where's the buyer? My father interrupted. I was told they'd be here. She's here, Richard said. I heard them sit down across from me. I still didn't turn. These are the closing documents, Richard continued, laying papers on the table. We've structured this as an asset sale. Miss Torres is purchasing the business, the property, all equipment and inventory, the Casa Torres name and trademark. Wait, my father said. Miss Torres? The buyer is a woman. Yes. Who is she? What's her background? What are her plans for the restaurant? Richard looked at me. I nodded slightly. I turned around. The look on my father's face was worth every penny of that $1.8 million. His mouth fell open. His face went white, then red, then white again. His hands gripped the edge of the table. My mother gasped. Why, hello, Papa. Mama. My father tried to speak. No words came out. You're buying Casa Torres? My mother finally managed. I am. But, how? Where did you get? She looked around the conference room at the expensive furniture, at Richard in his $3,000 suit. I don't understand. Ms. Torres owns and operates 12 restaurants across Southern California, Richard said smoothly. Annual revenue of approximately $18 million. She's purchasing Casa Torres through her company Marisol Restaurant Group. My father found his voice. 12 restaurants. 12, I confirmed. That's impossible. You were working at that Italian place making $14 an hour. That was 7 years ago, Papa. Things change. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. You own 12 restaurants. I do. Would you like to see the portfolio? I slid a folder across the table. He opened it with shaking hands. Photos of each location. Revenue figures. Press clippings. Boards. Jonathan Gold's review. A Forbes article about emerging restaurant entrepreneurs that featured me. This is all yours, he whispered. All mine. Well, 60% mine. My investor owns 40%. But you couldn't handle Casa Torres. You couldn't handle the pressure. I couldn't handle you, I corrected. There's a difference. Silence. My mother was crying silently. My father looked like he might be sick. Why? He finally asked. Why are you buying my restaurant? Because it's a good investment. Prime location, recognizable name, established customer base. Once I update the equipment, renovate the space, and refresh the menu, it'll fit nicely into my portfolio. Refresh the menu? His voice rose. That menu has been the same for 30 years. It's tradition. It's our family's recipes. It's outdated. Your revenue is down 35%, Papa. You're barely breaking even. The menu needs modernization. You can't change it. I won't let you. You won't have a choice, I said calmly. Once we close, it's my restaurant. My menu. My decisions. He stood up abruptly. I'm not selling. Not to you. Sit down, Papa. Eduardo, his lawyer said quietly. You already accepted the offer. We're here to close. I don't care. I won't sell to her. Not after what she... He stopped, seeming to realize how absurd that sounded. After what what? I asked. Please finish that sentence. He said nothing. You won't sell to me after I left? After you fired me in front of 40 customers and called me useless? I leaned forward. Or maybe you won't sell to me because it's humiliating. Because the daughter you thought was a failure is successful enough to buy your entire legacy with cash. Maya, my mother said softly. Please. Please what, Mama? Please let this go? Please pretend the last 7 years didn't happen? Please pretend he didn't destroy me that night. I was angry, my father said. You made a mistake during the most important service we'd had in months. I made one mistake. And you didn't just correct me. You didn't just take me off the line. You humiliated me. You called me useless in front of the entire staff. In front of customers. You fired me like I was nothing. You were sloppy. I was learning. My voice cracked. I was 22 years old working my first real kitchen job and you expected perfection. You compared me to Javier constantly. Nothing I did was ever good enough. Your brother was better. My brother had your patience, your mentorship, your support. He got second chances, third chances, 100 chances. I got fired for one mistake. The room was silent except for my mother's quiet crying. I took a breath, forcing myself calm. But you were right about one thing. What? I wasn't cut out to work for you. I was cut out to do this. I gestured around the room. Build my own empire. Make my own success. And I have 12 restaurants, Papa. 18 million in revenue. I'm more successful than you ever were. That landed like a punch. He actually flinched. So yes, I continued, I'm buying Casa Torres. And you have two choices. Sign the papers and walk away with $1.8 million. Or refuse to sell, watch your business continue to fail and eventually lose everything anyway. His lawyer leaned over and whispered urgently in his ear. Eduardo listened, his jaw tight. How long do I have to decide? He finally asked. You don't, Richard said. The offer expires at 5 p.m. today. It's now 2:47 p.m. Sign now or lose the deal. My father looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not quite respect. Not quite fear. Something in between. If I sign, he said slowly, what happens to the restaurant? What are you going to do with it? I'm going to gut it, I said honestly. New equipment. New design. New menu. I'll keep some of your traditional dishes, the ones that are actually good. But I'm going to modernize it, elevate it. Make it relevant again. You're going to destroy everything I built. No, Papa. I'm going to save it. Your way was dying. My way will make it thrive. He stared at the papers in front of him for a long time. Eduardo, his lawyer said quietly. You need the money. The property needs repairs you can't afford. Your revenue is dropping every month. This is a good offer. My father picked up the pen with a shaking hand. He signed. Page after page after page. Each signature seemed to age him a year. When it was done, Richard collected the papers. Congratulations, Miss Torres. You're now the owner of Casa Torres. I stood up and extended my hand to my father. Thank you for your business. He looked at my hand like it was a snake. But he shook it. His palm was clammy. Can I ask you something? He said. What? Did you do this to hurt me? I considered lying. But what was the point? Yes, I said. Partly. But also because it's a good investment. And because I'm going to do what you never could. Make it successful again. He nodded slowly. I suppose I deserve that. You deserve a lot more than that. My mother stood up. Maya, can we talk? Please. I don't think there's anything to say, Mama. Please. 5 minutes. Just you and me. I looked at Richard. He nodded. I'll finalize the paperwork with Mr. Torres and his attorney. I followed my mother out to the hallway. She was still crying. I'm sorry, she said immediately. For all of it. For not standing up for you that night. For not defending you to your father. For not being a better mother. Okay. Is that all you can say? Okay. What do you want me to say, Mama? That it's fine? That I forgive you? I don't. Not yet. What can I do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. The damage is done. You're my daughter. Then you should have acted like it 7 years ago. I softened slightly. Look, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to hurt you. But I'm also not going to pretend everything is fine. You stood by and watched him destroy me. You chose him over me. That's not something I can just forget. I was scared, she whispered. Your father, when he gets angry. I didn't know what to do. You could have called me. You could have checked on me. You could have told me you believed in me. I do believe in you. Look at what you've accomplished. Now you believe in me. Now that there's proof. But then, when I was struggling and needed you, you didn't believe in me then. She had no answer for that. We stood in uncomfortable silence. Are you really going to change everything about the restaurant? She finally asked. Yes. Your father's recipes, they're our family history. Then maybe you should have treated me like family when it mattered. She flinched. That's cruel. Is it? Is it more cruel than watching your husband fire your daughter and saying nothing? Than choosing his pride over her well-being? I was in an impossible position. No, Mama. You were in an uncomfortable position. There's a difference. I turned to go back into the conference room. Will we ever be okay again? She asked. I paused. I don't know. Maybe. But it's going to take a lot more than apologies. Inside, the paperwork was finished. My father was standing by the window staring out at the city. His lawyer was packing up. We're done here, Richard said. The property is officially yours, Ms. Torres. Thank you, Richard. My father turned around. I have one request. What? Let me stay on for 30 days. To help with the transition. To train your staff on the recipes. No. Maya, please. Those recipes are 30 years of work. My mother's recipes, my grandmother's. I have your recipes, Papa. You left a complete recipe binder in the kitchen. I don't need you to train anyone. But... no. We're done. You have 30 days to clear out your personal belongings. After that, the property is mine and you're not welcome there. He looked like I'd slapped him. You really hate me that much? I don't hate you, I said honestly. But I don't trust you. And I don't need you. That's what you never understood. You thought I needed Casa Torres, needed your approval, needed you. But I built 12 restaurants without any of that. I don't need you now. I picked up my bag. The wire transfer will complete in 48 hours. After that, we're done. No more contact unless it's through lawyers. Maya. My mother started. Goodbye, Mama. Papa. I walked out of that conference room with my head high. The renovation of Casa Torres took 4 months. I gutted everything. New kitchen equipment. State-of-the-art everything. New dining room. Modern Mexican aesthetic, warm but upscale. New bar with a serious mezcal program. And a completely new menu. I kept 5 of my father's traditional dishes. The ones that were genuinely good. The mole poblano, the cochinita pibil, the chiles rellenos. But I elevated them. Better ingredients, refined techniques, beautiful plating. The rest of the menu was mine. My vision. Mexican-Italian fusion, the style I'd become known for. Chili braised short rib ravioli. Mole negro risotto. Carnitas arancini. Tequila lime scallops with corn puree. I hired a new staff. Young hungry cooks who wanted to learn. I paid them well, $18 an hour to start, health insurance, paid time off. I created the kitchen environment I'd always wanted. Casa Torres, now rebranded as Casa Marisol, reopened on March 15, 2025. The reviews were incredible. Maya Torres has taken her father's legacy and transformed it into something extraordinary, wrote Patricia Escarcega in the LA Times. This is not your traditional Mexican restaurant. This is elevated, innovative, exciting. And it's packed every night. We had a 3-month waitlist within 2 weeks. Revenue in the first year hit $2.4 million. We were the most profitable location in my entire portfolio. My father never came by, never called, never acknowledged the restaurant's success. My mother called once 6 months after we opened. I drove by Casa Marisol, she said. There was a line out the door. Yes, we're doing well. Your father heard about it, about how successful it is. Good. He won't admit it, but I think he's proud. In his way. I don't need his pride, Mama. I never did. I know. I just thought you should know. We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important, then hung up. A year after opening Casa Marisol, I was featured in Forbes as one of the 30 most promising entrepreneurs under 30. The article detailed my journey, from being fired by my father to building a $24 million restaurant empire. Some people are motivated by encouragement, I told the interviewer. I was motivated by being told I was useless. It gave me something to prove. The article went viral in the restaurant industry. My phone rang 3 days after it published. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Why? My father's voice. I should have hung up. But curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? I read the article. In Forbes. Okay. You told them I fired you. You told them I called you useless. I did. It's the truth. Silence. Was that necessary? He finally asked. Did you have to humiliate me publicly? I laughed. It came out bitter. You humiliated me publicly 7 years ago, Papa. In front of 40 customers. Remember? That was different. How? How was that different? I was angry. It was in the moment. You deliberately told a reporter. I told a reporter the truth. I'm sorry if the truth is embarrassing for you. Maybe you should have thought about that before you fired me in front of everyone. I gave you a job when no one else would. I earned that job. I worked there for 3 years. And you threw me away like I was nothing. You made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I was shouting now. But you never gave me the same grace you gave Javier. You never gave me a chance to learn, to grow, to prove myself. You decided I was useless and that was it. I was wrong. That stopped me. What? I was wrong, he repeated, his voice quiet. About you. About firing you. About all of it. I didn't trust myself to speak. You built something incredible, he continued. 12 restaurants. Millions in revenue. National recognition. You did what I couldn't do. You actually succeeded. Is there a point to this call, Papa? I want to apologize. 7 years late. I know I'm late. But I'm trying, Maya. I'm trying to admit I was wrong. Hey, you admitted it. Is that all? Can we talk? In person? Can I see you? Why? Because you're my daughter. Because I miss you. Because I want to make things right. I closed my eyes. Part of me, the part that was still 22 years old and desperate for her father's approval, wanted to say yes. But the rest of me, the part that had built an empire without him, knew better. I don't think so, I said. Paya, please. You had 7 years, Papa. 7 years to call, to apologize, to acknowledge what you did. You stayed silent. You only called now because I'm successful. Because I made Forbes. Because now I'm worth acknowledging. That's not fair. Isn't it? If Forbes had written that I was still working at Osteria Mozza making $18 an hour, would you have called? Would you have apologized then? He didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. You're not sorry you fired me. You're not sorry you called me useless. You're sorry you were wrong about me. There's a difference. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice breaking. What can I do to make this right? Nothing, I said. There's nothing you can do. Because the person who needed your approval, who needed your support, who needed you to believe in her, that person doesn't exist anymore. You destroyed her 7 years ago. I'm someone different now. Someone who doesn't need you. You'll always be my daughter. Biologically, yes. But family is more than biology. Family is showing up. Family is support. Family is believing in each other even when things are hard. You weren't family when I needed you. I'm not going to pretend we're family now just because it's convenient for you. Silence on the other end. Goodbye, Papa. I hung up. He called back. I didn't answer. He called 5 more times over the next week. I blocked his number. My mother called too. He's trying Mija. Can't you give him a chance? He had all the chances in the world. He used them up. He's your father. And I'm his daughter. But he forgot that when it mattered. 6 months later, Marisol Restaurant Group expanded to 15 locations. We opened 3 more restaurants. One in Las Vegas, one in San Francisco, one in Austin. Total annual revenue hit $31 million. I was 31 years old and worth on paper roughly $11 million. Casa Marisol continued to thrive. It became the flagship location, the one featured in magazines and food blogs. The one where celebrities came to eat. The one that proved you could honor tradition while embracing innovation. Every time someone praised it, every time a critic wrote a glowing review, every time we had a line out the door, I thought about my father's words, "You're useless." And I smiled. Because I'd proved him wrong in the most permanent way possible. I'd bought his legacy and made it better. Last month, I got an invitation to speak at a restaurant industry conference. Building a successful restaurant empire, from line cook to CEO. During the Q&A, someone asked, "What's the best advice you ever received?" I thought about that. The best advice I ever received, I said slowly, was actually the worst thing anyone ever said to me. My father told me I was useless. That I wasn't cut out for this business. That I would never succeed. The room was silent. And I believed him, I continued. For about a day. And then I decided he was wrong. I decided I would prove him wrong. And that decision changed my life. I paused. Sometimes the best motivation comes from people who don't believe in you. Because it gives you something to prove. It gives you fire. And if you channel that fire correctly, you can build something incredible. After my talk, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 23. "Miss Torres? I just wanted to say thank you. My father owns a restaurant. He says women can't be chefs. That I should just work the front of house or get married." She took a shaky breath. "Your story gives me hope." I took her hand. "Then let me give you some advice. Don't wait for his approval. Don't wait for him to believe in you. Build your own success. Prove yourself to yourself. That's the only approval that matters." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you." As I watched her walk away, I thought about my father. About Casa Torres. About the 22-year-old girl who'd been fired in front of 40 customers. She'd been humiliated. Destroyed. Told she was useless. But she'd taken that pain and forged it into something stronger. Into 12 restaurants. Into millions in revenue. Into a legacy that would outlast any grudge. My father had given me a gift even if he didn't know it. He'd given me the motivation to prove I was more than he ever imagined. And I had.